Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. So here we are on Sears Island. This is one of my favorite hiking spots of recent years. This island is also known as Wassamakeg, which is the name given it to by the Wabanaki tribe of northern New England, and that translates to Shining Beach. And this is a large island. It's 940 acres, which makes it the largest uninhabited island on the eastern United States coast, which can be accessed by a causeway. Now, prior to this causeway, it could only be accessed during low tides via a shoal or a tidal bar, I guess you'd call it. And before becoming known as Sears Island, it was also known as Brigadier's Island. So it's an island of many names, apparently. And as you can see, it's a very overcast, kind of gloomy day, but it was quite warm for April in Maine anyway. Hit near 60 degrees and it was very muggy. And here's the sign with the rules to the island. Just looking at those gloomy clouds. I was wondering if I was going to get caught in the rain, but I didn't, fortunately. And a sign saying that hunting is permitted on this island. So if you're out here during hunting season, be wary of that fact. Wear your orange. And a nice sign at the start here. The map of the trails. Definitely check that out if it's your first time here. And also has a little bit of the history of the island, which is pretty cool. And I like this, someone painted the native name Wassamakeg. Very cool. And here we are, we're heading on to the Homestead Trail. It's a side trail off the main road. And you can take that main road. It's about a mile trip, or 2 miles round trip. You end up on a nice little pier. But I like these side trails off in the woods. They're more to my liking. And as you can see, we are encountering mud already. It's going to be a muddy hike today. And I've hiked this island year-round for several years now. And it's each season has its own unique aspect of beauty. And just so happens today we are bearing witness to the beauty of mud in all its glory. And just trying to get a nice view of the coastline here, although it's quite cloudy and gray. And also high tide. During low tide, you can actually traverse the whole island by coastline, although it does take quite a long time. And right here, I love these little spots, these little runoffs. I don't know if you can hear it, but I like to call them these murmuring brooks. Such a peaceful sound. And you can see they have these logs set up so you can traverse some of the more muddier spots, but they definitely don't cover the entire trail, so you will be getting muddy. And here we are coming up to this nice little clearing, which I've always assumed was used at some point as a farmland by previous inhabitants of the island. and I was just stopping to admire that giant oak tree. And this is the remnants of the previous inhabitants of the island. Some nice little stone steps that lead into this foundation. And a tree growing right in the middle of it. If that's any indication how long it's been. Oh, and this sign right here, this is a monarch way station. It's a stop in the migratory patterns of the monarch butterfly, as the milkweeds that grow here are an important food source for them. And during the summer, this area is covered in milkweeds. Very cool. And here, I'm just showing you the dirt roads that a lot of these paths consist of. It's not the most exciting of hikes, at least if you're going to the far end of the island, but I do actually enjoy this type of hike. I find it breeds this sort of introspective mindset you can get into. You just go to work, try to get to your goal to the end of the island, and within that, you're not distracted the whole time, so you can really get some good thinking done, which is very important, especially I think in today's world where we're just barraged with information on a daily basis. It's just too much for people to, comprehend. And whenever we can get outside and in nature and be at one with ourselves and the natural world, I think is a great thing. And even if you're hiking with a companion, I also find it's a great time to communicate. I definitely recommend turning off your cell phones and just being at one with the nature and your surroundings. And here I'm showing you this little side trail off the main road. If you're going this way, definitely take this little side trail. This is the loop trail. Simple enough. No horses allowed on the loop trail. So if you're riding a horse, you can't go there. Alright. But this trail is great. You're totally encircled in this dense evergreen forest where it's almost reaching out to grab you. And I don't know, I just find it very comforting. And as you see up ahead, we still have ice and snow. Late April in Maine. But we're getting there. So spring is definitely here. And actually we're more fortunate than further up north. There's still a couple feet of snow, as I've heard from some people. And this path actually in the winter time is absolutely gorgeous. All these evergreens are just blanketed in layers of snow. It's very picturesque. But it is quite difficult to traverse in the winter time, as obviously you're trudging through feet of snow. But I don't think that's honestly a bad thing. A lot of people seem to hesitate and go for the easier routes. But, in hiking you can choose to do these more challenging routes and be rewarded. It's almost a great metaphor for life. Taking the more difficult road leads to, a greater reward. And also just the feeling of setting out a goal and achieving it. That's an important lesson. And a funny story about how I discovered this island. About 3 or 4 years ago, a friend and I were discussing what place we would escape to during a post-apocalypse scenario, and this was his choice, which I honestly I can agree with him now years later. Is natural resources are abundant here, if not just for the absolute serenity offered by this island. And thank you, friend, for mentioning this to me, by the way. As little did he know, just that little comment, you know, turned into me discovering one of my absolute favorite hiking spots. But be wary on this trail during the summertime. There's all kinds of spiders, so if you're afraid of spiders, you're going to be coated in spider webs. So maybe not do this trail, or if you're with someone, have them go first if they're not scared of spiders, because you might not have a good time. Oh, so here we are. We are at the Blue Trail, which was the goal of the hike today. It's the furthest trail on the end of the island, and Blue Trail, I'm assuming, was the name because you're witness to the ocean at the end of the trail. It's the great reward. Although it's not very blue today, as I mentioned, it's quite gray skies, and as you can see, this runoff just follows the trail all the way down, so it's quite muddy. The muddiest part of the trail. At points you're actually sinking into the mud, so definitely wear your muck boots, and don't be afraid to get dirty. It's interesting looking at this now, though, because during the summer months, you can't even see the ocean from here. You're actually surrounded by dense vegetation. It's almost a forest of ferns surrounding this path, and at times you're just ensconced in it as they sort of reach out and grab you. And me admiring a dead tree, as I am wont to do. And this tree right here, look at the way that's curved. I can only postulate that grew like that because it was growing around something to get to the sun. And it's very interesting. Oh, and whenever there's a puddle, always try to jump over the puddle. That's my rule. Yep, we made it. And don't always make it. Sometimes I end up in the puddle. But today I made it. And so there's blue markers on this trail. If for some bizarre occurrence you get lost, it'd be pretty difficult. And look at these mushrooms. Gorgeous mushrooms. I think those are turkey's tail mushrooms growing on the dead logs. And yeah, I cut ahead here. So yeah, we're coming up to the coastline, the end of the Blue Trail. Especially during the summer months, this view here, to me, is like the absolute definition of beauty. Because you've gone this far, you're hiking, you're tired, you're hot, sweating, and then you're just rewarded with this absolutely gorgeous view. And of course, when you get to the coastline, you get the nice breeze and it cools down. And in fact, there's this tree that's washed up years ago, I imagine. Right there is a nice place to sit when it's low tide and, you know, have your your lunch or a snack. And this whole coastline, unfortunately it's high tide today, but this whole coastline is traversable. I like to sometimes just make my way back on the coastline, but be sure the tide is low enough because you will get stranded if it's not, and you'll end up having to climb up ledges and back through the woods. And not that that's not fun, because I've done it and it is fun, but just a fair warning. And more beautiful mud. And we're just coming to the end of the trail here. I like how they have this nice blue bucket ending the marking the end of the blue trail. And the magnificent, powerful ocean. And here we are coming back. This is on our way back, actually. I passed this on the way in, but I didn't get a good filming of it, so I came back here. This is on the Homestead Trail, and it's the nice indication that spring is actually here. Whether you believe it or not, it's here. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. Can you hear it? That's right, the frogs are breeding, and now I'm endearingly going to know this from now on as the Love Swamp. Oh yeah. I really wanted to cue up some Barry White for the Love Swamp, but I'm sure there'd be some copyright issues. That's right, exciting time for the frogs at the Love Swamp. I'll be quiet so you can hear them now. The funny thing about these frogs is they're so loud, but you'd never see them. They're sneaky little love frogs. Alright, this is just me at the end, pointing out that the sun was finally trying to come out, and as a result I was sweating. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. Please hit me up with any comments or feedback. I would appreciate it, and hope you all have a wonderful day.